I'm Brooke Morse, 36, and I thought a perfect dinner at a Lexington restaurant near the horse farms would finally bring my family together. I'd planned everything: candlelit table warm smiles and a surprise, a five-star Florida Keys vacation for all of us. I handed out the vouchers, heart racing, hoping for a moment of connection. My half-brother smirked, tossing his voucher aside. "Money can't buy family," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. My stepmother leaned forward, eyes cold. "In fact, no one wants you in this family," she spat. My dad just sat there, silent, staring at his plate. The words hit like a punch. I forced a faint smile. "Got it," I said, standing up. My chair scraped the floor and I walked out, their stares burning into my back. In that moment, I knew I was done trying to please them. Something snapped inside me, not anger, but clarity. I wasn't just leaving the restaurant, I was leaving them behind. What I did next changed everything, and they'd soon regret those words. What would you do if your family turned their back on you? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for the full story. Growing up in the suburbs of Lexington, I was always a shadow in the Morse family. My mother Vera passed away when I was a young girl, her warmth fading into memories of soft lullabies and encouraging words. Her absence left a hole nothing could fill. My dad remarried soon after bringing my stepmother into our lives. She was a sharp, imposing figure, her gaze cold and dismissive, never softening toward me. Her son, my half-brother, arrived when I was barely a teenager, quickly becoming their pride and joy. My dad, once my anchor, poured his attention into him, leaving me sidelined. As a kid, I felt unseen. My stepmother brushed off my efforts, perfect grades, school plays, even my first poetry prize, as insignificant. "Don't waste time on that," she'd snap, her tone cutting like a blade. My half-brother, bold and reckless, was their golden child. He'd break rules, charm his way out, and my dad would chuckle, saying, "He's just spirited." My successes, no matter how hard-earned, went ignored. I pushed myself harder, hoping to earn a glance of approval, but their indifference only deepened. School became my escape. I threw myself into studies, excelling in math and debate, dreaming of a future beyond their judgment. By my late teens, I discovered a passion for real estate. Lexington's rolling horse farms and grand estates captivated me. I learned the market, shadowed brokers, and soaked up every detail. As I built my career, I started buying and selling properties, small ranches at first, then boutique hotels. My name grew in the industry, my deals closing in the millions. Yet my family saw none of it. "You're just lucky," my half-brother scoffed once, dismissing years of late nights and calculated risks. My dad nodded, never countering him. My stepmother's silence was louder than any insult, her eyes saying I'd never measure up. Still, I supported them. By my late 20s, as my career took off, I began sending $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year to cover their expenses. Bills, groceries, even my half-brother's fancy car payments came from my account. I hoped it might shift their view, maybe earn a shred of respect. It didn't. "That's what you're supposed to do," my stepmother said once, her voice implying I owed them for being born. My half-brother took the money without a word, then mocked my flashy job behind my back. My dad accepted the checks in silence, never once saying thank you. Their entitlement stung more than their rejection. I'd send the money month after month, thinking it might bridge the gap, but it only widened. I tried to connect. I invited them to see a historic estate I'd restored, hoping they'd see my world. My half-brother laughed it off, calling it showing off. My stepmother rolled her eyes, saying I was chasing dreams that didn't matter. My dad just shrugged, avoiding my gaze. Their dismissal wasn't loud outbursts. It was a constant, quiet rejection that wore me down over time. My mother Vera's memory kept me going. She'd believed in me, left me a small horse farm, a piece of her heart I held close. Her faith pushed me to build my life, to prove I was more than their shadow. But living for their approval was exhausting. By the time I planned that dinner, I was at my breaking point, desperate for them to see me, not my money, not my success, but me. I thought one grand gesture could change everything. I was wrong, but that mistake set me on a path to reclaim my worth. That night at a high-end restaurant in Lexington, I believed things could change. I'd poured weeks into planning this dinner, selecting a place known for its sophistication, hoping it would spark a new beginning. As I sat across from my dad, Maude, and Vernon, the warm glow of chandeliers felt like a promise of connection. My heart raced with nervous hope. I'd brought a gift, something grand to show I cared, a 5-star Florida Keys vacation fully paid for all of us. When the main course arrived, I reached into my bag, pulling out 3 glossy envelopes each, holding a voucher for the trip. My fingers brushed the smooth paper as I handed them out, a smile masking my anxiety. "I thought we could all use this," I said, voice steady. Vernon grabbed his eyes scanning the voucher before he let out a sharp laugh. "Money can't buy family," he sneered, dropping the envelope onto his untouched plate, his tone laced with disdain. The words stung, but I held my breath, waiting for the others to react. Maude didn't hesitate. She snatched her envelope, barely glancing at it before tossing it aside. "In fact, no one wants you in this family," she said, her voice icy, each syllable cutting deeper than the last. I felt my chest tighten, my pulse hammering. I turned to my dad, desperate for a word, a glance, anything. He just sat there swirling his wine, his face blank, as if I wasn't even there. The silence was louder than their insults. The room seemed to close in the clatter of dishes around us, fading into a dull hum. I forced a tight smile, my voice low. "Got it," I said, sliding my chair back. The sharp screech of wood against the floor broke the tension. I stood, my hands steady but my heart pounding, and grabbed my coat. Their gazes followed me. Vernon's smug, Maude's cold, my dad's empty. But no one spoke. I walked out, each step deliberate, their rejection echoing in my mind. In the parking lot, the night air did little to cool the anger surging through me. I leaned against my car keys, slipping in my trembling hands. The pain was sharp, a mix of betrayal and raw hurt, but beneath it, something shifted. I'd spent years chasing their approval, believing I could earn a place at their table. That dinner was my last try, and they'd made their feelings clear. Vernon's mockery, Maude's venom, my dad's indifference, they thought they could dismiss me. They were wrong. As I slid into the driver's seat, my mind cleared. Their words weren't just insults. They were a breaking point. I was done pleading for their acceptance. I gripped the wheel, resolve hardening in my chest. I wouldn't fight them with words or tears. I'd hit back in a way they'd feel, a way that would make them regret ever underestimating me. That night marked the end of their hold over me. The next morning, in my apartment overlooking Lexington's meadows, I called Eunice. My best friend and lawyer. Eunice had been my rock since our college days, her sharp mind always cutting through chaos. Last night's dinner, the sting of Vernon's mockery, Maude's cruel words. My dad's silence still burned, but I wasn't crumbling. I was ready to act. "I'm done with them," I told Eunice, my voice steady. "I want to protect my mother's legacy and stop funding their entitlement." She didn't hesitate. "Let's make it airtight," she said, already pulling up documents. My mother Vera's horse farm, a sprawling piece of land she'd loved, was my most precious inheritance. It was more than property. It was her dream, a place of rolling pastures where she'd once taught me to ride. I'd kept it in the family's trust, thinking it tied us together. Now I saw it differently. They didn't deserve it. With Eunice's guidance, I began transferring the farm to a local nonprofit dedicated to preserving farmland. The process was straightforward: legal papers, a few calls, my signature. By noon, the deed was filed. The farm, worth millions, was out of their reach forever. Next, I tackled the monthly payments. For years, I'd sent $5,000 a month to cover their bills, utilities, groceries, Vernon's lavish spending. It was my attempt to earn their respect, but they'd treated it like a right. I logged into my bank account, my fingers hovering over the screen. Canceling the recurring transfer felt like cutting a chain. I clicked confirm, and just like that, their financial lifeline was gone. Eunice reviewed the move, ensuring no legal blowback. "You're free," she said, her voice warm with approval. The fallout came fast. By afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from Vernon. "You think you're clever giving away what's ours? You'll regret this." His words dripped with venom, but they didn't shake me. I deleted the message, my pulse calm. Hours later, my dad called, his voice tight with anger. "How could you do this to us? That farm was our legacy, not yours to throw away." He didn't mention the money, but I knew he felt the loss. I listened, letting his words fill the silence, but offered no response. Maude predictably stayed silent. No calls, no texts, just her usual cold absence. I didn't reply to any of them. Their anger, their accusations couldn't touch me anymore. For the first time in years, I felt light, unburdened. Handing over the farm wasn't just about taking something away, it was about honoring my mother's memory, protecting what she'd built from their greed. Cutting the payments wasn't petty revenge. It was me reclaiming my power, refusing to let them leech off my success. Eunice stopped by that evening, a bottle of wine in hand. "You did the right thing," she said, raising a glass. I smiled, the weight of their expectations lifting. Sitting on my balcony, I looked out at the meadows stretching toward the horizon. The farm was gone from the family, but it would thrive under the nonprofit's care, preserving its beauty for others. My bank account, no longer drained by their demands, felt like mine again. Vernon's text, my dad's call. They were noise, not substance. Maude's silence only confirmed what I already knew: they'd never valued me. I didn't need their approval anymore. What I'd done wasn't just a response to their cruelty, it was a declaration. They'd underestimated me, and I was just getting started. A few weeks later, I met Jude and Eunice at a downtown Lexington cafe. Jude, my old friend from business school, had a knack for sniffing out trouble, and Eunice, ever the meticulous lawyer, had been digging into my family's financial dealings. After cutting their monthly payments and transferring my mother's farm, I'd asked them to look into the family's joint account, a pool of assets I'd helped grow meant for shared expenses. I suspected Vernon wasn't as innocent as he played, and I was right. Over coffee, Eunice slid a folder across the table, her expression grim. "You need to see this," she said, her voice low. Inside were bank statements, invoices, and email chains, all meticulously organized. The evidence was damning. Vernon had siphoned off $600,000 from the joint account over the past year. He'd funneled it into a string of failed real estate ventures, risky deals he'd hidden from me, betting big and losing bigger. Jude leaned in, pointing to a forged invoice. "He used your name to authorize transfers," he said, shaking his head. "He thought you'd never check." I stared at the documents, my jaw tight. Vernon's betrayal wasn't just greed, it was a calculated move, banking on my trust. The account, once holding $1.4 million, now had $800,000 left. Every page I turned fueled a cold resolve. He'd taken advantage of my generosity for years, and this was the final straw. I looked at Eunice, my voice steady. "I want the rest of it protected," I said. "Somewhere, it can do good." Eunice nodded, already one step ahead. She'd drafted paperwork to transfer the remaining $800,000 to a nonprofit supporting orphaned children in Kentucky. It was a cause close to my heart, a way to honor my mother's kindness. "This is airtight," Eunice said, handing me the forms. "Once you sign, it's done. No one can touch it." I didn't hesitate. My pen moved across the page, each stroke feeling like a reclaiming of my dignity. By the end of the meeting, the transfer was complete, wired to the organization's account, with Eunice overseeing every detail. Jude sipped his coffee, watching me closely. "You okay?" he asked, his tone soft but searching. I nodded, a faint smile breaking through. "Better than okay," I said. The weight of Vernon's betrayal stung, but it also clarified everything. He'd gambled with my trust, assuming I'd stay blind. Instead, I'd turned his betrayal into something meaningful. The money would now build futures for kids who needed it, not fuel his reckless schemes. As we left the cafe, my phone stayed quiet. No angry texts from Vernon, no calls from my dad, no word from Maude. I didn't expect them to know yet. Eunice had ensured the transfer was discreet, and the joint account's balance wouldn't show the change until Vernon tried to access it. When he did, he'd find nothing left. The thought didn't bring joy, but it brought peace. I'd spent years giving them everything money, time, hope, only to be met with scorn. Now I was choosing who deserved my support. Walking through Lexington's bustling streets, I felt a shift inside me. Eunice and Jude flanked me, their presence a reminder that I wasn't alone. The evidence of Vernon's actions wasn't just a blow, it was proof I'd been right to walk away. Transferring the money wasn't revenge for the sake of cruelty. It was justice, a way to protect what was left of my family's legacy. My mother would have approved, and that was enough. I was no longer the shadow in their story, I was writing my own. That fall, the Morse family began facing the consequences. Word spread quickly in Lexington's tight-knit circles, and Vernon's reckless financial moves unraveled under scrutiny. The authorities launched an investigation into his accounts after the nonprofit tipped them off about irregularities tied to the joint account. Bank records unearthed from my tip to Eunice exposed his unauthorized transfers, $600,000 funneled into failed ventures. His reputation as a rising star in finance crumbled overnight. A major client, a prominent horse breeder, pulled a multi-million-dollar deal citing trust issues. Colleagues distanced themselves, and Vernon's name became synonymous with bad bets. I heard about it through industry whispers, not from him directly. My phone stayed quiet, but I imagined Vernon scrambling to salvage his image, his charm useless against cold evidence. His arrogance, once a shield, now left him exposed. I didn't gloat, I just watched, knowing his downfall was a direct result of his greed. Each report of his struggles felt like a quiet confirmation that I'd done the right thing by pulling the plug on their access to my resources. My dad took a different approach. He hired a lawyer, claiming I'd wrongfully given away my mother's farm, a family asset he believed he deserved. The lawsuit landed in my inbox, a thick packet of accusations that painted me as selfish, disloyal. I wasn't shaken. My mother's deed, drafted with her meticulous care, left the farm solely to me. Eunice had ensured the transfer to the nonprofit was ironclad, and the court agreed. The judge dismissed my dad's case in a single hearing, citing the clear language of the will. My dad's attempt to claw back what wasn't his collapsed, leaving him with legal fees and bruised pride. Maude and my dad faced a colder punishment from their own kin. The extended Morse family, a sprawling network of cousins and aunts in Kentucky, turned their backs. Once respected for their social standing, they were now whispered about at gatherings they were no longer invited to. My dad's siblings, who valued fairness, saw through his claims about the farm. Maude's sharp tongue, once her weapon, made her a pariah when her allies learned of her role in pushing me away. Their social circles shrank, replaced by sidelong glances and polite excuses. Without my monthly payments, their financial house of cards began to wobble. The $5,000 I'd sent each month had propped up their lifestyle mortgage payments, club memberships, Vernon's flashy cars. Now, with that gone and Vernon's income drying up, they struggled to keep up appearances. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that their sprawling Lexington home was quietly listed for sale, a desperate move to cover mounting debts. Maude, always proud, stopped hosting her lavish charity luncheons, her absence noted by the town's elite. I watched from a distance, my life moving forward while theirs unraveled. My real estate deals thrived, new contracts flooding in as my reputation grew. I didn't need to confront them, their own actions had set this in motion. Vernon's investigation wasn't my doing. It was the natural outcome of his deceit. My dad's lawsuit failed because my mother's wishes were clear, not because I'd schemed against him. Maude's isolation came from her own cruelty, not my interference. Their downfall wasn't revenge, it was justice catching up. Sitting in my office overlooking the rolling hills where my mother's farm once stood, I felt a quiet strength. The nonprofit had already begun restoring the land, turning it into a community space for local farmers. My mother would have loved that. I hadn't just protected her legacy, I'd given it new life. The Morse family's struggles were no longer my burden. They'd built their lives on taking from me, and now they were learning to live without. For the first time, I felt truly free from their shadow, ready to face whatever came next. One winter evening, I received an email from my mother, Vera's lawyer. The subject line was simple: a letter from Vera. My heart skipped as I opened the attachment, a scanned document in her elegant handwriting. She'd written it years ago before her illness took her, and instructed her lawyer to deliver it when I turned 40. I was early by a few years, but the lawyer felt the timing was right. I sat by the window, snow falling softly outside my Lexington apartment, and began to read. "Brooke," she wrote, "you are stronger than you know. Live for what matters to you, not for others' approval. Your heart is your guide, trust it." Her words were a gentle command urging me to embrace my own values, not the expectations I'd fought so hard to meet. She spoke of her love for the land, for the horses, for me. "Build something lasting," she wrote, "something that carries your light." Tears blurred my vision, but they weren't from pain. They were from clarity, from feeling her presence again. Her letter shifted something in me. For years, I'd carried the weight of my family's rejection, trying to prove my worth. Now I saw it clearly: their approval was never mine to earn. I'd already honored my mother by protecting her farm and redirecting their greed. But her words pushed me further, to live fully, unapologetically for myself. That night, I made a decision. I wouldn't just survive their betrayal, I'd thrive beyond it. Jude had been by my side through it all, his quiet strength a constant since our business school days. Over time, our friendship had deepened into something more. One crisp afternoon, we stood in a small Lexington chapel, surrounded by a handful of close friends. The ceremony was simple: no lavish displays, just us exchanging vows under soft winter light. I wore a plain white dress, and Jude's smile was all the adornment I needed. As we said "I do," I felt a lightness I hadn't known in years. This wasn't just a marriage, it was a promise to myself to choose joy over pain. Inspired by my mother's words, I turned my focus to something bigger. Lexington's horse country had shaped me, and I wanted to give back. With my real estate profits, I founded a nonprofit to support women launching agricultural businesses, farms, stables, markets. The Vera Morse Fund offered grants, mentorship, and resources, helping women build their dreams in an industry often dominated by men. I poured my heart into it, working late nights to review applications, meeting aspiring entrepreneurs whose passion reminded me of my mother. Every grant we awarded felt like a piece of her legacy reborn. The fund's first event, a workshop for local women farmers, was held on the land I'd donated to the nonprofit. Standing there, watching participants share ideas under the same oaks where my mother once rode, I felt her pride. The fund wasn't just about money, it was about empowering others to stand tall, as she'd urged me to do. My work filled me with purpose, a stark contrast to the emptiness I'd felt chasing my family's approval. Jude and I built a life together, simple but full. We spent evenings cooking in our cozy apartment, laughing over small things, planning trips to places we'd always wanted to see. My business thrived, but it no longer defined me. I'd found balance, a way to honor my mother's values while forging my own path. The Morse family, Vernon, Maude. My dad faded into the background. I didn't need their validation anymore. Their world, built on entitlement, had crumbled while mine grew stronger. As I stood on our balcony one night, snow dusting the meadows below, I realized I was free. My mother's letter had been a compass guiding me to this moment. Marrying Jude, launching the fund, choosing happiness, these were my victories, not acts of revenge. I'd built something lasting, just as she'd asked. For the first time, I wasn't running from my past or fighting for a place in it. I was home in every sense, ready to embrace the life I'd created. A year later, I stood in a Lexington gala hall watching young women pitch their startup ideas. The Vera Morse Fund had grown beyond my expectations, its grants empowering dozens of women to launch farms and stables across Kentucky. Their passion lit up the room, a testament to my mother's vision. Jude stood beside me, his hand resting lightly on mine, his presence a quiet anchor. The evening was a triumph, but a shadow lingered. Vernon had taken to social media, posting bitter accusations about me. His posts were vicious, claiming I'd stolen the family's wealth and ruined their lives. He painted himself as a victim, twisting the truth about the farm and the joint account. Comments piled up, some from strangers who believed his lies, others from locals who knew better. I scrolled through them once, my stomach tightening, then closed the app. Responding would only fuel his desperation. I'd learned long ago that words from someone like Vernon held no weight. They were noise, not truth. I let them fade, trusting my actions spoke louder. The Morse family's collapse was no secret in Lexington. Vernon's investigation had led to fines he couldn't pay, forcing him to sell his prized car collection. Industry doors slammed shut, his name now a cautionary tale among financiers. Maude and my dad, once fixtures at elite gatherings, were rarely seen. Their homes sold at a loss left them in a modest rental, their social status eroded. Family and friends, once loyal, kept their distance, weary of their complaints and excuses. I didn't follow their every move. Gossip reached me, unbidden, a reminder of how far they'd fallen. My world, meanwhile, flourished. The fund's success drew national attention, with articles praising its impact on rural women. I spent days mentoring grantees, their determination inspiring me as much as I hoped to inspire them. Jude and I settled into a rhythm, our evenings filled with quiet dinners and shared dreams. We'd bought a small house near the meadows, its porch perfect for watching sunsets. My real estate business thrived, but it was the fun that gave me purpose, a way to honor my mother's call to build something lasting. Vernon's attacks didn't shake me. They couldn't. I'd spent years seeking approval from a family that never valued me, only to find it was their loss, not mine. Their downfall wasn't my goal. It was the consequence of their choices. By stepping away, I'd protected my peace and built a life rooted in my own values. The gala, the fund, my marriage. They were proof I didn't need their validation to thrive. Standing in that hall, I felt a profound clarity. Self-respect, I realized, was the foundation of everything I'd built. It wasn't about proving others wrong or chasing their praise. It was about knowing my own worth. My mother's letter had planted that seed, and every choice since had nurtured it. Vernon could rage online. Maude could cling to her pride. My dad could mourn his losses, but their voices no longer reached me. I'd found my place not in their world, but in one I'd created. As the gala ended, I stepped outside, Jude at my side, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, anchored by the truth I'd earned. My respect for myself was enough.